Terrius Youngdale Nash, aka The Dream, born September 20th, 1977. In the late 2000s, it was almost impossible to escape The Dream's sound. His name appeared everywhere: liner notes, production tags, feature credits, and late-night radio dedications. If you weren't singing along to his own sleek, synth-heavy R&B singles, you were likely still mouthing lyrics he penned for someone else. Umbrella, Single Ladies, Touch My Body, all generational pop anthems that emerged from his pen and production table. Yet for someone who felt so omnipresent, The Dream's solo career never quite matched the level of his influence. 2 gold albums and a handful of hits, and then a quiet fade from center stage. His voice was distinct, digitally filtered, high-pitched, and smooth, and his production leaned toward futuristic, minimalist, and sexually charged. But for all his innovation, The Dream's career remains a case of being everywhere and nowhere at once. A man who shaped the sound of an era, yet never fully became the face of it. His music stood at the intersection of R&B's final flirtation with mainstream pop and its descent into something more abstract and underground, but like many visionaries, he didn't always translate well to the front of the stage. Born Terrius Nash, The Dream was no overnight sensation. His earliest musical contributions came behind the scenes, slowly building a reputation as a writer and producer in the early 2000s. But when his name finally broke into the public consciousness in 2007 with the release of his debut album Love/Hate, it was a strange kind of breakout. The album was praised, even adored by R&B purists and critics alike, but it didn't dominate the charts and it didn't sell millions. Yet somehow The Dream had arrived, cloaked in a stardom that didn't quite exist on paper. He moved like a major artist, carried himself like one, even spoke like a behind-the-scenes architect pulling the strings most couldn't see. And in truth, that was closer to who he actually was. The Dream was never meant to be a superstar in the traditional sense. His genius wasn't in dancing across award show stages or headlining sold-out arenas. It was in crafting the blueprint of what other stars would sing, what the clubs would echo, and what radio would replay until burnout. But when you step into the spotlight, people expect more. And in The Dream's case, that expectation became a quiet storm that eventually swallowed the momentum he once had. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Romeo Madoff on YouTube for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. The Dream is a singer, songwriter, and producer from Rockingham, North Carolina, who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most influential musical architects of the 2000s. After moving to Atlanta following the death of his mother, Nash immersed himself in music, first as a drummer and later as a songwriter. He met producer Lainey Stewart, who became a mentor and helped him navigate the industry early on. Through that connection, he eventually linked with Tricky Stewart, Lainey's brother, and together they formed a powerhouse writing and production duo. His big break came in 2007 with Rihanna's Umbrella, which he co-wrote and co-produced alongside Tricky. The song became a global phenomenon and caught the attention of L.A. Reid, then CEO of Def Jam. That same year, The Dream signed his own deal with Def Jam and released Love/Hate, launching his solo career. Though not a commercial juggernaut, the album laid the foundation for his artistic legacy. Stunt number 1, Superstar Sound Supporting Role. One of the biggest factors that stunted The Dream's solo growth was the very thing that made him so important. He was too good at making others sound great. His pen turned rising stars into stars and already famous ones into icons. Rihanna's Umbrella didn't just win awards, it elevated her into another tier of global stardom. Beyoncé's Single Ladies wasn't just a hit, it became a cultural anthem. Even lesser-known artists like Jay Holiday found their only career-defining hit Bad thanks to The Dream's writing. But while those songs were dominating the charts, The Dream's own material sat quietly beneath the surface. Critics love Love/Hate and Loveburst Money for their innovation, but the general public never fully bought in. His voice, intentionally processed and robotic, didn't connect emotionally for some. His themes, mostly centered around sex, ego, and heartbreak, were authentic but lacked the broad appeal needed to push him into mainstream stardom. There's also a psychological effect in play. When someone becomes known for giving hits to others, it can diminish their perceived value as a solo artist. listeners start to subconsciously view them as a behind-the-scenes guy, not the frontman. The Dream's talent was so deeply embedded in other people's success that when it came time to push his own work, it felt like a side project. Even with standout tracks like Falsetto and Rocking That Ish, his image never fully separated from the shadows of the stars he helped build. In a way, he was boxed in by his own brilliance. The industry saw him as a machine for making hits for others, and when the spotlight was turned his way, it didn't shine as brightly. The Dream's identity remained tied to his contributions rather than his own persona, which made it hard for fans to follow him the way they followed the voices he empowered. Stunt number 2, the image that never connected. Despite his undeniable talent, the Dream never quite sold himself as a star. His image was intentionally aloof, stylized sunglasses damn near at all times, designer clothes, flashy accessories, but it lacked the personal connection or mystique that draws fans in beyond the music. He wasn't a dancer, didn't act, and rarely did the charismatic interview or public appearances that turns musicians into full-fledged celebrities. In a genre driven heavily by personality and presence, the Dream kept a wall up, often positioning himself as more of a creator than a performer. When he did speak, it was usually in grand, sometimes arrogant statements about his artistry, which rubbed some people the wrong way. He talked like he was Quincy Jones, Prince, and R. Kelly rolled into one, and while he had the resume to justify confidence, the delivery sometimes felt off-putting. For a new solo artist still building a fan base, that tone made it harder for audiences to root for him on a personal level. He also didn't play the traditional fame game. No messy public relationships, no viral antics, no crossover acting roles, and none of the outside hooks that draw casual fans in. Even his music videos were minimalistic and abstract, often focused more on aesthetic than storytelling or engagement. As a result, the Dream felt like a distant figure, more respected than beloved. In an era where artists like Usher, Chris Brown, and Ne-Yo were giving fans polished looks, strong performances, and accessible charm, the Dream was the eccentric genius in the corner. Brilliant but hard to fully embrace. His style was unique, but his brand never became relatable or iconic. And without a strong personal connection to carry him, his solo career struggled to rise above the shadow of his songwriting legacy. Stunt number 3, an evolving sound that stopped evolving. When the Dream arrived, his sound felt ahead of its time. Spacey synths, minimal drum patterns, and layered robotic vocal stacks that gave his music an almost digital romance. Albums like Love Hate and Love vs. Money didn't just reflect on R&B of their era, they helped shape it. But the same sonic formula that made him stand out eventually became a box he couldn't grow beyond. By 2010's Love King, listeners began to hear repetition. While still solid, the album didn't offer much evolution. The themes remained largely the same: sex, heartbreak, swagger, and the production style, once innovative, was now being borrowed and reimagined by others. Newer acts like The Weeknd were taking the Dream's moody, ambient influence and pairing it with darker tones, mysterious branding, and emotionally raw storytelling. Suddenly, the Dream's version of R&B began sounding less like the future and more like a loop from a few years prior. When he returned in 2013 with Foreplay, billed as a major comeback, the reception was lukewarm at best. The project lacked cohesion and felt like a reach to recapture his old magic without updating the formula. Even with big-name features like Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Kelly Rowland, the album didn't connect commercially or critically. The musical landscape had shifted, trap had taken over, R&B was mutating into new subgenres, and the Dream sound, once futuristic, now felt dated. He tried adapting, later releasing the 40-track Ménage à Trois in 2018 and the Sextape series after that, but by then, the momentum was gone. The projects were bloated and overlooked, more appreciated by hardcore fans than the larger audience he once flirted with. In the end, the Dream never found his second win. He came in as a disruptor, but didn't evolve fast enough to stay one. And in a genre that reinvents itself every few years, that hesitation cost him the spotlight. All in all, the Dream's solo career is a story of influence outpacing recognition. He helped shape the sound of modern R&B and pop more than most of the artists who topped the charts beside him. Yet when it came to building his own stardom, the pieces never fully aligned. His voice, image, and creative direction worked best behind the curtain, writing anthems, crafting moments, and defining eras for others. While his own spotlight flickered and dimmed too soon, his fingerprints remain all over the industry. The dream didn't disappear, he just returned to where he was always the most powerful, in the background, pulling strings, shaping culture, and reminding us that some of the most important voices aren't always the ones holding the mic. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, musically, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.